Have you ever wanted to learn how to draw? Or maybe you would just like to get better at drawing? Then you should check out Drawabox.com. I stumbled across this site and it's exactly what I needed. This is a completely free course created by Irshad Kareem, who also goes by Uncomfortable. It is made up of 2 parts with 7 lessons in total, along with challenges. The first part covers the basics, starting completely over with learning how to draw a line, then goes into textures, objects, animals, and finishes with vehicles. Each lesson is comprised of written material with diagrams and companion videos for demonstration, followed by actionable steps of homework assignments or challenges. Then you can even submit your work for review for free by the community, or you can support Irshad on Patreon and have your work officially critiqued by him. I recently completed lesson 1 and had it critiqued very thoroughly, I might add, by someone a part of the community, and wanted to share my experience with you in case you were interested. Lesson 1 is broken down into 3 sections: lines, ellipses, and boxes. The very first assignment is superimposed lines, to practice making confident and accurate lines. You make your first line with the ruler as your guideline, then you must go over each line 8 times and fill 2 pages of these. This might seem simple, but being accurate is harder than you think. My feedback from my critique was, this was very well done. I'm seeing good consistent trajectory and no fraying on the start point, and not a lot of fraying on the end point on a lot of them too. Solid work. Next assignment is 1 page of ghosted lines, where the training wheels of having a guideline is gone. You have to create a point A and point B, then make a confident, accurate line connecting the 2. My feedback was there are a few cases in which the slight arcs are wobbling, but I think that's completely normal at this stage. Again, this is much harder than it looks. The last assignment for lines is filling 2 pages of ghosted planes. Building on the previous assignment of connecting point A to point B, you fill the pages with squares or planes. You also must connect the corners of each plane and make cross sections. Basically, practicing a lot of line work. My first page, I did squares that were all straight, well, as straight as I could get them. Then for the second page, I tried to switch it up and make them more angled or tilted. My feedback on this part was there was 1 or 2 lines on the ghosted planes where it seems like you are prioritizing accuracy over confidence, but it definitely seems like you do understand the process for these 2 exercises. Moving on to ellipses. The first assignment was 2 pages of the table of ellipses, and I received a lot of feedback about this one. The person said, I want to draw your attention to 2 things. First, some of the cells, or boxes of the table, are filled with ellipses that have the same consistent mistake. This suggests to me that you're evaluating what you did wrong only after finishing the entire cell and not after each ellipse. It's important to treat each mark you make equally, whether they are on their own or a part of a series of marks like this one. Therefore, each new ellipse you make should attempt to improve on where the previous ones weren't correct, including the same cell. The other thing I want to mention was that when planning to draw an ellipse for this exercise, you should always plan on the ellipse touching at least 3 existing points. This is usually the top, bottom, and either the wall or the ellipse beside it. The reason for this is because the 3 points allow you to define an ellipse, meaning you can tell what the ellipse should be in comparison to what you have drawn. So reflecting on that, I think I rushed a little completing this assignment and that they were spot on with their feedback. Next was 2 pages of ellipses and planes, which you take the 2 pages of ghosted planes from the line section and just put ellipses inside each one. I found it helpful to have the dots in the middle of each line on the planes and used it as a guideline to aim for when creating my ellipses. My feedback was the ellipses in the planes exercise is very solid overall. A few of them wobble a bit upon nearing the end. Try to focus on lifting your pen at the end of the mark instead of trying to slow to a stop. That slowing action often causes these wobbles. This is just a small issue that only affects a few of them though. The last exercise for ellipses was 1 page of funnels. I thought drawing the arcs of the funnels was difficult to keep them consistent and even, therefore my ellipses were off-center. My feedback on this part was funnels were well done despite some of the arcs being a bit off. Remember that the primary purpose of this exercise is to try to draw ellipses that align to the minor axis line. If the arcs are kind of off, you should still focus on aligning the ellipses first, even if they don't properly touch the arcs. Personally, I thought it would have defeated the purpose of the arcs if I ignored them altogether, as the assignment was called funnels, but I do understand what the person was saying here. The last section of Lesson 1 is boxes, and this was the most time-consuming part of Lesson 1. I did learn a lot about perspective and vanishing points in this section. The first assignment was 1 page of plotted perspective. You divided the page up into 3 parts where I adjusted the horizon line in each so it was slightly different. Even though you got to use a ruler for this entire assignment, it was still time consuming, making sure everything lined up correctly. And my feedback was plotted perspective is great, no issues as far as I can see. Next was 2 filled pages of rough perspective, and this was my least favorite assignment of Lesson 1. Basically, you are doing the previous assignment, but free-handed using the ghosting method of lines we learned earlier. I couldn't make an accurate box, let alone put the box into perspective with the vanishing point. Then you would use a ruler and a red pencil to see how accurate you were. This was so hard for me to do, and I made note of it when submitting my work for critique. My feedback was, your boxes do attempt to converge on the vanishing point, not always successfully, but definitely at least a decent effort each time. This was the first assignment I actually thought of doing over because I felt it turned out so bad, which Ershad recommends against doing very often. So I accepted it and moved on. The next assignment was 1 page of rotated boxes. This is the first time Ershad says he's giving you something he knows you probably can't do, and that's okay. He just wants us to complete the assignment to the best of our ability. So I thought this was going to be the hardest assignment, harder than the rough perspective, but surprisingly it wasn't. It did take me a while to complete it, probably about 40 minutes or so, but I was taking my time trying to line the boxes up. With the boxes completed along the cross, it helps serve as a guideline to fill in the rest. It definitely did not turn out great, but if someone asked me before starting this course to draw that, I would have thought that I couldn't do it. My feedback on this was, you did a great attempt at the rotated boxes exercise, remembering that doing this exercise well is definitely not expected. While the front of the lines of each box are fairly close together, the back ones are more diverging, especially in the outer ring of boxes. The line weight is also a bit too strong on the front lines. Most importantly, the boxes are drawn too small. Drawing things as large as possible helps with spatial reasoning and gives you the space to make the mark-making motions more correctly. I did make the line weight too strong, but I felt like that helped make the boxes stand out enough through all those lines because it definitely could get confusing. He is right about the size though. It probably would have made things easier if I made the boxes bigger. I'm not sure why I made it so small, but maybe I was worried about running out of room or something. The last assignment for the boxes section is 2 filled pages of organic perspective. Basically, you draw an organic line and then draw boxes decreasing in size along that line to understand spatial awareness. Even though my boxes aren't straight, I actually really enjoyed this assignment. My feedback was overall solid work, though there are some issues with lines and box sizes, which I knew right away. He also mentioned about drawing the boxes all the way through. However, I went back to reread and watch the video about this assignment, and Ershad doesn't draw his boxes all the way through in this particular assignment, nor does he mention it, so I explained that that's why I did mine that way as well. So to recap Lesson 1, the line section took me around 44 minutes for the assignments, the ellipse section took me about 74 minutes, and the box section took me about 147 minutes. In total, I spent around 265 minutes, which is 4 hours and 25 minutes, just doing the homework assignments for lesson 1. This does not include the time I took to read each section and watch the videos, which I highly recommend doing both. Now, I'm currently working on the 250 boxes challenge before starting lesson 2, and I'm about 100 boxes in. All in all, I'm so happy to have found this free course. I needed something structured with specific assignments and back to the basics. I believe if I put forth the effort into each assignment that I will be better at drawing by the end of this course. I do plan on documenting my progress for each lesson, so make sure to subscribe if you want to see those future videos. If you have ever completed these lessons before or you're interested in starting now, let me know in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed this video and I will see you in the next one. Bye!